Alabama takes on number 17 Mississippi State. That'll start around 3:30 Eastern time. Crimson Tide head coach Nick Saban says his team has to worry about Dak Prescott and the Bulldog offense.
Dak Prescott has been playing there for a long time, has a lot of experience, does a really good job of executing their offense and their ability to pass the ball effectively.
Also at 3:30, number 1 Clemson visits Syracuse. Earlier this week, head coach Dabo Swinney says he will not overlook the Orange.
They're 3-2 at home. They're a very tough team at home. They had a close loss to LSU, I think 10-point game, and then a 3-point game to Pitt at home. Tough team, tough crowd.
And at 8 o'clock, it's number 12 Oklahoma visiting number 6 Baylor at McLean Stadium. The Bears remain undefeated on the year. Move over to the NFL. Eddie Lacy still questionable with a groin issue. Latavius Murray, he's been upgraded to probable, so they are hoping he can play on Sunday. Pittsburgh Post-Gazette reporting that Ben Roethlisberger, no chance of playing on Sunday, and it's likely that the Browns are going to start Johnny Manziel as QB Josh McCown still healing. NASCAR, Kyle Busch, he won the Coors Light Pole. Remember to listen to NBC Sports Radio on your local station, online at NBCSportsRadio.com, and the mobile app. I'm Keith Irizarry.
This is KCAA.
Slam the door on FeePay. Forget everything you know about selling online because I'm here to tell you about a new and revolutionary way to buy and sell on the internet. BuySellMakeOffer.com is here to shake up the web. Tired of paying those outrageous fees? You'll never pay a fee with BuySellMakeOffer.com. For a monthly membership package starting at only $7.95, you can list and sell up to 50 items. That would cost you nearly $100 with the other guys. Go right now to BuySellMakeOffer.com and sign up today.
As the owner of my business, I wear a lot of hats. I'm accounting, sales, and so much more. But I don't know marketing.
Let Dex Media be your marketing department. Our team can create a digital plan for you with everything from search to social. Contact Dex Media, that's DEX Media, to get found, get chosen, and get talked about.
Whoa, that's a job for cleanup, which would be me.
Call 844-230-3436 or visit dexmedia.com today.
Kcaa.
The law office of Brandon S. Chabner, serving clients in Southern California with transactional legal services since 2007. We handle general, corporate, outside counsel type work, drafting and negotiating a wide variety of business and commercial contracts, including non-disclosure agreements, independent contractor agreements, and employment agreements. Our experience includes working with public and private companies and involves a broad range of industries, including healthcare, consumer products, real estate, and high technology. Mr. Chabner has over 20 years of legal experience, having worked for some larger national firms and serving as general counsel for a multi-million-dollar private company here in Southern California before starting his own legal practice. His educational credentials include a law degree from UCLA, where he was on law review, undergraduate degree at Yale, where he graduated magna cum laude, and an MBA from Harvard Business School. Other areas of focus for Chabner Law include press release and business plan editing, pre-litigation matters, and debt and mortgage resolution work. You can contact us at 310-698-0740 and at bchabner@chabnerlaw.com.
Hey Di, do you know that many people have no idea that the Carousel Mall is actually open?
What? Do you tell them that that's where KCAA is located?
Of course, but there's more than just KCAA here.
Oh, I know. It's a totally great place for a girls' outing. Here at the Carousel Mall, there's Mega Beauty Supply.
And it's huge.
Yeah, the biggest beauty supply store I've ever seen. And they have wigs and extensions.
Then there's Backstreet Beauty Salon and Daniel's Jewelers, a store, by the way, for girls and guys.
Yes, and Nail Fashions where they do waxing and eyelash extensions. There's Lisa's Threading. You know, Mark, eyebrow threading is a big thing nowadays.
I do know about Mr. Yu's.
Yes, when you're ready for lunch, it's Mr. Yu's Chinese restaurant.
Best of all, Mr. Yu's is right next to KCAA.
Yes, all this located in the Carousel Mall, right off the 215, the 2nd and 3rd Street exit.
Come visit the Carousel Mall. We're open.
For more info, go to kcaaradio.com.
If you're trying to prevent a home foreclosure, you need the Goodman Law Firm on your side. Goodman has a nationwide network of foreclosure attorneys to represent you during the mortgage mitigation process. The Goodman firm has resolved troubled mortgages across the nation. Take control of your mortgage situation today. Call the Goodman Law Firm, 888-800-6030, or contact them online at www.arnoldgoodmanlaw.com. Welcome to I'm Mad as Hell with Lloyd Brock and Greg Simpson. Now, if you want to share your anger, this is the station, KCAA, every Saturday at 12 noon. If you're mad as hell at the government, politicians, IRS, your bank, a car dealer, or the court system, let us know. You may want to be one of our in-studio guests, or just call in and vent that anger. 1-888-909-1050 or 909-888-5222 locally. We may not be able to resolve your individual problems, but we will give you a forum to share your anger with our listeners. Now, join us at KCAA 1050 AM and at kcaaradio.com or check us out at Ustream. Now, here's Lloyd and Greg.
Oh, boy, am I angry today.
What are you mad about today? What do you have?
Just read the newspaper, listen to the news.
And what else?
ISIS attacking Paris. An icon like that. I mean, my God, that was their 9/11. Basically, they came out of the woodwork. There was only 8 people, supposedly terrorists, that did all this damage, but there were 128 people killed, over 300 people in the hospital.
Have they been identified as ISIS? Have they been
Some have, and one of them, actually, they suspect came across with the refugees. So, all those thousands of people that came out on the boats, how many were sleeper cells?
Oh, yeah.
And we're supposed to get a few of those over here.
Of course.
What does that mean?
That means
we could be next.
That's right. Easy.
I mean, and we remember when we had the guy from Syria on?
Uh-huh.
He blamed Obama for that whole
he
thing.
Sure
he
did.
said
Yes, he did.
He allowed them to, allowed them into Iraq, and after we left, they became very powerful.
Very powerful, yeah.
And he said they weren't doing anything about it.
Yeah, well,
and right now, and they still aren't doing anything
they still
about
aren't,
it.
That's right.
And we didn't supply the Kurdish, and the Kurds wanted weapons badly months ago, and we wouldn't supply them. Now we're supplying them, and they're going in after them. We should have supplied them in the first place. They'd have taken care of this problem.
They'd have stopped it in the bud, right?
So that's what I'm angry as hell about.
I don't blame
What
you.
are you mad as hell about?
You know what I'm mad as hell about? I was going to talk about poverty, but I'm going to go somewhere different. I have a friend in Ohio, and she volunteered for one of these to be a test subject on a drug. It was for lupus and some other disease. And she went as a volunteer into Indianapolis, and they gave her the drug, started her on the drug. Make a long story short, she had an anaphylactic shock reaction, almost died, had to be airlifted from there back to Indianapolis, was unconscious for all intents and purposes for 7 or 8 days, and woke up really not knowing where she's at. And they sent her home. She got home. She's been really weak. And then to add to the sequel, 3 days ago, her teeth started dying. The roots of her teeth from this medication started dying. So she's going to have dentistry.
She probably signed an agreement not to sue.
Yeah, she said she wouldn't sue, but she's going to make sure that she says that they're coming with offers to do her teeth and make up what she's lost. And I'd like to have her on the show maybe next week or the week after to explain to people to read the fine print very finely. Don't just use your heart. Like
they said in the service, never volunteer.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Never volunteer. But anyway, she's suffering deeply, and I think she has a story to tell, so maybe we'll get her on.
Okay, and our guest today is Steve
Heisey, my attorney and friend. And
he's going to talk about workman's comp. What are you mad as hell about?
Well, I'm not mad as hell because I make money taking care of workers' compensation problems. They pay us to do it.
You got to be mad as hell about something.
But there's got to be a lot of people in the system that are mad as hell because it's a very frustrating problem. If you get hurt at work, you have problems in trying to figure out whether you can get the right treatment and get yourself benefits while you're off work and get back to work and get any help with those problems. So a lot of people are really hurting because of the system that we have in place here in California.
Well, I mean, a lot of them shouldn't be there in the first place. Don't you agree?
Well, that's a part of the problem. Unfortunately, some people have a very minor injury. They get sent off to a clinic. They're released to go back to work, and they immediately think they got to get a lawyer, and they start litigating a claim when they're already being taken care of properly. And to be honest with you, most of the claims that are made don't need a lawyer. They don't need litigation. But because some people are litigious in nature, they'll rush off and grab a lawyer before they even know what the extent of their damages are. And so they clog up the system with a lot of unnecessary litigation. And, of course, the costs of defending a claim and the costs of providing benefits on a claim are extremely high here in California. And so if the people that don't really need it are clogging up the system, then those that really need it aren't getting the benefits that they could otherwise receive through the funding that's necessary for work-related injuries.
Is there a time and place where you can figure out where you need the lawyer and where you don't? Is that fine line, or?
Well, I think, Greg, the first thing is just simple logic. If you get hurt at work and you report the injury to your employer and they send you immediately to a medical clinic, at least things are starting in the right direction.
Sure.
But if you get to that clinic and they don't even examine you and they don't really hear you and they simply send you back to work and you ask to do something that you personally feel you cannot do, you know you can't do it, then you do have a problem. But if they send you back to work, maybe they give you a restriction to avoid something for a short period of time. Your employer accommodates that. They allow you to go to the doctor to get the treatment you need. You probably should stay out of the system and be glad you got what you got.
Do you have any statistics to say how long these people stay on workman's comp?
Well, I don't know what the statistics are, but I do know that we've changed the laws here in California. Arnold Schwarzenegger made major sweeping changes back in April of 2004 that we're still working under. One of the major changes that came with that law was a limitation of the period of temporary disability that you could receive for one injury. And the period of time now is a maximum of 2 years. So if you had a claim of an injury before 2004, you could still be collecting temporary disability benefits if you have certification from a doctor. So that's one major change. Now that can be both good and bad. If you have a serious chronic condition and you have a maximum of 2 years of disability benefits, and because of the nature of your claim, there's a lot of questions about whether it's related to that injury or not, and the medical treatment you are requesting is really related, you could end up with a lot of delays during getting treatment. So you're not only getting delays, but you're using up your 2 years, and by the time you figure out it is really work-related, now you're going to get the treatment, but you don't have any disability benefits.
Yeah.
And so you can't go back to work, and you don't have money.
Yeah.
That's the problem.
But I saw this film clip of people that claimed disability slip and fall injuries, one in Las Vegas where the guy spread some oil on the elevator, and you could see he didn't know he was on camera, and they opened the door and whoo, he's slipped and fell. Yeah. Oh my God, here I am. And then they've got a lot of those. They've got them in the supermarkets too, where people put things down on the floor and they go ahead and do that. And there's always a doctor out there that seems to, or a chiropractor that says, oh yeah, this is life-threatening, or this is going to be forever, and he's got this injury and this soft tissue, and that's always suspect, isn't it?
Well, it is suspect, but it's you raised one question, what you said about somebody basically creating their own injury.
Right. Yeah.
Those are very, very few and far between. That doesn't happen a lot.
Okay.
What does happen a lot is that people have an injury which is relatively minor. they claim it to be much greater than it is.
Okay.
And they do things that are recreational and fun and whatever else while running around skiing or boating and doing things which are fun while they're claiming to be temporarily disabled from a job which is less demanding than what they're doing recreationally. And so we catch people doing that. And, of course, those kinds of people are, again, clogging up the system, taking a lot of time and resources that should be provided to the people who are legitimately injured and legitimately need the disability benefits and legitimately need appropriate medical treatment. So there's a lot of that. There's more of that goes on than people creating their own injuries. That's very rare.
If you suspect somebody is doing that, how do you report them?
You mean if they're
well, Big Brother's always watching.
How do you do?
It's amazing to us. All you have to do is be involved in a acrimonious marital situation. Maybe you have an estranged relationship, or you have a neighbor that doesn't like you. And trust me, you can canvass the area, ask a few people questions, and they'll be glad to throw you under the bus.
Sure. Doesn't take a big exploration, does it?
No, it doesn't. So, a minor review of the people in the area, and if you're doing something that you shouldn't be doing, if you're as disabled as you claim, there's somebody out there that's going to be glad to tattle on you.
Yeah. That's true. If you have any questions for Steve, give us a call. Our toll-free number is 1-888-909-1050.
Now, let me just go into one area that a lot of people are having a problem with today, and it has to do with medical treatment for a legitimately accepted workers' comp claim.
Yeah.
They get injured at work, they go to a doctor, they even go to the doctor that's part of the medical provider network, which is the system that's in place for an employer to designate who's going to provide treatment for their injured workers. So you do everything you're supposed to do. You go to their doctor, they provide you with a recommendation, and then that recommendation has to be put on what's called a request for authorization. The doctor has to not only write a report explaining what he wants to do, but he has to put in a request for authorization on a specific mandated form of the state whereby he requests authorization to do that treatment. Now, the insurance carrier has an opportunity to either just provide the treatment, or they can delay the treatment for 5 days and try to clarify if it's in fact necessary, or they can delay it up to 14 days if they say, I need to talk to the doctor and find out why he wants to do this treatment. And then that's what's called a utilization review process. And then the utilization review doctor may very well be a doctor who never sees you, doesn't know your symptoms, doesn't know any more than what's in the reports, and he determines from looking at a book that the treatment that the doctor's recommending for you isn't appropriate, and you get what's called a denial or non-certification of that treatment. And it's very frustrating when you think you're doing what you're supposed to do. You and your doctor believe what he wants to do is appropriate, and now you're getting a denial. Then you say, well, I hurt, I need something to get better, and what their doctor's telling me isn't approved by their system.
Well,
what am I supposed to do now?
Who certifies these doctors to be experts in this area?
Well, well, first off, you have your treating doctors, which are, they have to be approved to be in the medical provider network. But the reviewing doctors, the utilization review doctors, there's not much really of the process to get them certified. Some doctors are even outside the state of California, and they'll do this as a part-time job. Over lunch break, they might be sitting down reading a report and sending off a report where they make a few bucks to basically non-certify a procedure. And so there's a lot of people who have a right to be angry as hell about their inability to get the treatment that they really do need.
And even psychiatric treatment. I think that Greg has a story there.
Yeah, about the psychiatric treatment. 8 minutes of psychiatric treatment produced a
bill for
a huge bill, but a 2-hour report
consultation.
Well, now, Greg, I hope you don't mind if I tell people, but Greg was actually a client of mine. I helped him through the workers' compensation system with his legitimate injury to his knee that had multiple complications. But during the process, what he's referring to is we used an agreed medical examiner to evaluate him with regard to his claim of a psychiatric component due to the depression from anxiety that he was dealing with and trying to go through the system and get back to regular life activities. And so we sent him to a doctor, and if you believe, here he is out in, the Inland Empire, and he's being sent way out to the other side of the 405 freeway to a doctor out in West L.A. He's got to drive through morning traffic to try and get there for a 10 o'clock appointment. And I'm sitting at my desk, and at 10:08, Greg calls me up and says, Steve, would you believe my psychiatric evaluation is over? The doctor said he has all he needs in 8 minutes. And then, of course, when I get the report, it says on the report under penalty of perjury by that doctor that he spent more than 2 hours in face-to-face consultation with Mr. Simpson. That's a problem.
That is a problem. And that I have a...
Did you report him?
I did not report him. I probably should have. Thank you for making me feel ashamed of myself.
I didn't mean to put you on the spot, but, that would be my first indication that somebody's trying to con the system. And I'm sure that a lot of them are. They're not compensated
here's the deal,
enough.
Lloyd. What happens is most people who don't know about workers' compensation feel like the people that are claiming work injuries are frauds. They think it's the injured workers who are the frauds.
No, I know.
But in our system, if you look at it legitimately, and I'm not going to say the doctors are frauds, but what I just told you, I think you'd all agree that's perjury. If he says he spent 2 hours and he only spent 8 minutes, that's not truthful.
That's right.
And how can you have done a complete evaluation? So one of the attorneys that I know in our community has a little trick he plays. He'll have somebody go with the person to the doctor's office, and he'll have them take a watch, and they'll know exactly what time they're called in to actually meet with the doctor, and then what time they come out. And then if he doesn't like that doctor's report, he'll conduct the doctor's deposition and ask him under oath how much time he spent. And it gets very interesting at that point.
Oh,
as
yeah.
he starts to pin him down about this information that he has from another source. Now, doctors don't like that, but the reality is there's far too much of that going on, and it's a lot of unnecessary expense because of the way doctors are paid to do evaluations. And now those are not treating doctors. Those are evaluating doctors. The agreed medical examiners or the qualified medical examiners whose opinions are relied upon by the court in determining issues such as how much permanent disability they have, how much time off the books they have in terms of temporary total disability, whether they're able to go back to work with or without restrictions.
And they can't get their regular fees. They have to go by the fees established by the state of California.
There's an established fee schedule. The official medical fee schedule applies for not only treating physicians but also examining physicians, and they are limited by the code as to what those fees can be. But like people in business in general, they find ways around the system to increase their own fees for the services they provide.
Well, there's been some nurses out there that were fired indiscriminately, and they've blown the whistle on the doctors saying, "Hey,
Big time.
I remember reading a case about that in the LA Times. Here again, how if I'm injured and I don't like my doctor and I don't like what he says, can I change?
That's a very good question, Lloyd. One of the problems that most people have is they don't read what's provided to them. Now, if you claim a work injury and you do it through the right process, which is if you're injured, you tell your employer within 1 day of your injury.
Yeah.
They're required to give you a claim form. You fill in that claim form. They're obligated with that claim form to send you to a doctor to examine you for the claim that you're making and to see if you, in fact, are injured and if you need treatment and if you need restrictions. You start the process in that manner. If you do it that way, you're at least headed in the right direction. But the claims examiner, the person back at the insurance company, is going to be handling your claim, and they're going to send you out a large package of materials basically saying, we're sorry to hear about your injury, we're here to help you, and here's a lot of information that's going to help you understand our system. And included in that is going to be a discussion of the medical provider network process, what we call the MPN process. The doctors that are available for use to handle your claim. And what most people don't do is they don't read that paperwork, and they don't realize that if you're not happy with the first doctor they send you to, you have an absolute right to request a change of treating physician to another doctor in their network. And you could call a lawyer, or you could go down to the information systems officer at the appeals board, or you could talk to friends. But there's a lot of ways you could find out who might be a better doctor that's on that list and give yourself another chance. And you can do that 3 times by law. So you have a right to change doctors. But if you don't read it, you don't know you're right.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I've changed doctors in some of my, but of course I've got private insurance and I can do that.
Right.
But just says, hey, I'm firing you.
Well, you're
I'm
lucky.
hired new.
You're lucky you have the right kind of insurance that allows you to do that. Some of the less expensive plans will not allow you to change those doctors. So the medical problems are not isolated to the workers' comp industry. There's plenty of other problems in just our medical system at large here in the United States. But at any rate, in workers' comp, you need to make sure that your doctor that you're going to listens to you and make sure you tell them what your problems are.
Well, you used to work on the other side, didn't you?
I work on both sides. I actually represent some injured workers, and I also represent employers and insurance carriers.
No, but the state of California. You used to work for the state, right?
I've never worked for the state.
Oh, I thought you did.
No, people think of the defense industry as being the state, but no. If you say you work for the state, even there's actually nobody that works for the state that's an attorney in the system. Their state compensation insurance fund is a very large carrier, but it's still an agency that has its own lawyers. But I've never actually worked for the state. I've worked for many insurance carriers in the state of California who are licensed and obligated to dispense benefits in accordance with the labor code. But I've never worked for the state.
You fought some cases to deprive them of that compensation, I'm sure legitimately.
Well, I wouldn't say I fought to deprive them. I wanted to make sure that if
it was a legitimate claim, yeah.
I consider my job, if I'm working for the defense industry, is to make sure that people get exactly what they're entitled to and not one dime more.
That's
In other
only,
words,
that's only
the
fair.
system
That's only
is
fair.
The system is, if they're disabled, I want to find out who's honest, make sure that they get what they're entitled to. If they're not honest, I want to try and put a stop to it. Now, if I'm working for the injured worker, I'm going to try and make sure that they tell me what their problems are, and that I try the best I can to make sure they find appropriate medical care and that they get the disability benefits that they're entitled to while they're off work and recovering, and then to get assistance to get back to work if at all possible. But that's another subject. With the change in law back in 2004, we have no more vocational rehabilitation. So if you can't go back to your other job, you have no recourse. There's no place for you to go to get rehabilitation through the workers' compensation system.
Yeah. It's what about the individual who has exhausted their benefits? For instance, a lot of times, like I know somebody who was injured on a job and they took a settlement, had a cash settlement. Right. And I think after that they still had legal rights to a doctor in case they had a reoccurrence.
Well, that's a good question. A lot of people don't understand how cases are settled and what their rights are with regard to a workers' compensation claim. Let's just start from the beginning. If you have a work injury,
right,
and you have let's say you injured your back, and you get treatment, and you're taken off work, you receive that treatment, you go back to work, you still have lifetime right to medical treatment for your back to be paid for by the insurance carrier. Lifetime. Now, the insurance company doesn't want to have that on their books.
Right.
So they're going to come to you and they're going to offer you what's called a compromise and release, which is an agreement where they'll give you some money to buy out your future medical rights.
Yeah.
Now, that's one way of settling. There's another way of settling, which is called a stipulation with request for award. That's the other way where you stipulate to a level of disability and you retain your future medical rights. And so, yes, you'll get a monetary award, but you will also have a right to continue to seek treatment that's reasonable and necessary to cure the effects of that industrial injury for the rest of your life.
That's probably the best way to go, isn't it?
It all depends. If you have a new job with good insurance, take the money, get the money. Uh-huh. But if you don't have another source and you really have some ongoing problems, then you're better off retaining your medical rights.
Okay. Well, we'll keep that in mind. We're going to come up for a break in a minute, but I think this is valuable information. And anything else, if we have a caller, we're going to talk to them in a few minutes.
Okay.
I think
AME doctor has the power of everything. Is the AME not powerful? That's the question I think people should know. They do have power.
First off, you have to define an AME. An AME stands for an agreed medical examiner, and that's where if you have an attorney, they can consult with your insurance carrier, and between the two of them, they can select the doctor that they agree on to resolve any disputed issues on regard to your claim.
Right.
If you're not represented by a lawyer, you do not have a right, and the insurance company can't use an agreed medical examiner.
Oh, okay.
Instead, you go through the qualified medical examiner process, which can also be used for a represented person, too. You don't have to use an AME.
Oh, okay.
But the qualified medical examiner would be one where if you've gone to the company doctor, you've gotten released, that they tell you you have 2 or 3% permanent disability, you think you have more than that, you dispute his conclusion, you say, what do I do? You have a right to a qualified medical examiner to determine whether the treating doctor was correct.
So you go into arbitration, or?
Well, you go to a doctor. What happens is, if you're unrepresented now, the request is made to the medical unit of the state, and they will send out a list of 3 doctors, and then you pick one of those 3 doctors, and he becomes your qualified medical examiner. Now, that selection process is very important to you, and if you're smart, you'll consult somebody before selecting one of those doctors. But a lot of people will simply say, well, which one's closest to my house? And they'll pick that one. And that very well might not be the best selection process. Right. Because that doctor's going to control.
Going to a break right now, and we'll be right back with Steve and more on Workman's Comp.
All right.
Do you like craft beer from microbreweries? Well, I'd like to tell you about Oak Hills Brewing Company in Hesperia. All of their beers are brewed on site from the very best ingredients. Yummy, yummy. Typically, they have between 12 to 14 beers on tap at any given time. And backed by popular demand, Mango Orange Wheat Beer. A delightfully flavored beer with orange and mango juice. It's a little light citrusy beer with a tropical twist. You can also check into some heavier beers, Grapefruit IPA and the Belgium Triple Redemption. You can also bring the kids. Oak Hills Brewing Company offers 3 crafted sodas, yummy root beer, zesty ginger ale, and cream soda. The kids will love them. You can also visit the tasting room and take the behind-the-scenes brewery tour. Oak Hills Brewing Company in Hesperia. They're open 3 days a week, Thursday from 3 to 9, and Friday and Saturday from 1 till 10. Go up right after you hear the show. For more information, go to their website. It's oakhillsbrewingco.com. oakhillsbrewingco.com. You'll find a map with directions and a list of all their beers. To find the best craft beer in Southern California, just remember Oak Hills Brewing Company in Hesperia. Take the 15 up to the 395, pass 2 signals, and turn right on Poplar. Oak Hills Brewing Company, Hesperia.
You're listening to KCAA, your good neighbor along the way.
Yeah, we're not going to take it anymore.
Nope.
Up to here.
Up to here or higher. Depends on how tall you are.
Have we got a caller? Okay.
There he is.
Yeah. Good. Who's on the line here?
Who are we speaking to?
Welcome to I'm Mad as Hell. Hello? Are you there?
Hello.
We had a connection. I thought we did. Any rate, call back.
Well, while we wait for the caller to come back, we're just talking briefly about some of the other problems that people encounter with their work injuries. And one of the problems that we deal with is a person has a back injury or a knee injury, and they start taking medication, and that medication starts to bother their stomach or starts to cause some other internal medical problems. And those are what we call compensable consequences. And they are something that has to be treated by the insurance carrier, and you do have a right for treatment. But if you don't tell your doctor about these problems, no one's going to know.
Yeah.
So it's important that you communicate with your doctor, because anything can happen. Another thing can happen is you have a knee injury, you start hobbling around, and you're walking with what they call an antalgic gait, or you have a limp. And you have a limp, you're going to develop some problems in your back.
That's right.
And you might have some problems with your other knee because you're pushing off of it more than you are the injured knee. And you have what they call compensable consequences to the back and the opposite knee. Those are very common, and they are part of the claim, and you're entitled to treatment for those. But again, you have to communicate that to your doctor so that he knows what to do for you.
Okay, I think we have the caller around. Welcome to I'm Mad as Hell.
Yes.
Yeah, who am I talking to?
It's Chris.
Hi, Chris. What are you mad as hell about?
Well, I'm not mad as hell anymore. I went through the system, the workers' comp system, for several years, trying to treat my injury. I was mad the whole time I was through there, but I'm calling to maybe give somebody an idea what it's the real process from the injured person. I mean, you can hear from the attorney and what's going on, but maybe what it's like going through the system and what to expect.
Sure.
Well, let me ask you, Chris. Did you have a lawyer assisting you with your claim?
Sure. Yes.
Okay. So,
real quick, I can give you a rundown of mine, and kind of shows that I may know what I'm talking about.
Yeah. Tell us briefly about your injury, and then what problems you encountered in going through the process.
Yeah. Well, I was in law enforcement, working for on a dope team. Prolonged exposure. We did a lot of meth labs. We handled them from takedown or from investigation, takedown, and processing. Prolonged exposure to meth labs over several years burned up my lungs. So I went through the whole process. It took them about 7 years to finally get through my case. But what I'd like to tell is nobody tells you how to get into when you go into the system. Your employer will send you off. You have a legitimate claim. They send you off to the doctor. You are basically against the world when it comes to that. Nobody really wants to hear that, but you are. The person that's injured because of whatever the fraud from the past, the money situation from the doctors, the amount of claims that are going through the system, it's you against the world. You have to manage your own claim. And you have to, the doctors, you don't get very good care through there. There's some good doctors in there, but because of the type of process that you go through, you really don't get much good care. You have to be on top of it to receive that type of care.
And you have to rely, I guess.
Most people wait about a year. They don't lawyer up. They get a caseworker. They tell them, oh, everything's going to be fine. You got to be fine. But you have to realize if you're working for a company, the company has an insurance company that's backing that also. And it's a money situation. It's a game. They don't want to pay out. What they want to pay is less amount as possible. And that's basically the way it is. They can tell you whatever you want to tell. If you get an attorney off the bat, you can eliminate a lot of the problems that you'll have. The attorney will probably get you a QME or an AME, which you call an AME, it's non-biased. That'll help you with getting the correct care and the correct diagnosis.
Chris, can I ask you a question? You said you had lungs burned from this exposure to meth labs. Is that right?
Yes.
Now,
I have COPD and beginning stages of emphysema.
That's what I'm going to ask, because sometimes people will just say, well, it's my lungs, because that's all they know about. But you had other problems, not just the lungs, and it was determined that they were also a part of your exposure to these meth labs. Isn't that correct?
We had a really bad connection. I can hear parts of it. And let me tell you, I can tell you a little bit about the treatment that I received. And this is why I learned after a couple of years that you have to manage your own care. I went in, I was teaching a fight conditioning class for a martial arts academy. I was teaching at a very well-known police academy, or sheriff's academy, doing firearms and defensive tactics. I was running with the academy students. There was a problem with it was a progressive disease, so I progressively felt worse and worse and worse, but I couldn't do it. I went in, said, hey, there's something wrong. I went to the doctor, said, oh, yeah, there's something wrong. I go in. Now, granted, I'm doing these classes with the lung capacity that I had, but my mind didn't know what was going on, so I kind of made my way through it. When I started being treated, they filled me up. They didn't really know. I don't know if they knew how to do it or they were just going off of what was in a book on the treatment. They filled me full of steroids, all different types of steroids. They overdosed me on steroids to the point where I couldn't even show up for my own classes. I went from my blood pressure was 118 over 60 something. My heart rate was in the low 60s to into the 50, 58. To within 8 months, I had gained 40 to 50 pounds. My heart rate was was in the hundreds on a sitting. My blood pressure was 190, it would go from 170 to 190 over 102 to 110. They didn't. The doctor just looked at me and said, "Well, this is what they say I should be prescribing you." I said, "Man, I'm dying here." Well, and I said, "It looks like the steroids. I'm getting like the symptoms of Cushing's, and my face is round. I got a buffalo hump on the back. No, I can't do that. It's a systemic. Can't do that." Eventually, I went to another doctor, and they wouldn't let me out of their office. They said, "Oh my God, we can't let you go. You could have a stroke on the street. We can't let you leave." So they got it back, and that's kind of what I went through. But in the meantime, because I was overtreated, undertreated, the damage was done. If I would have known what I know now at the beginning, I wouldn't have let that. I would have stopped. I would have gone to another doctor. Even though I had an attorney, you have to realize your attorney has a boatload of cases also. You have to tell them what's going on, and you have to push it through. You have to be the squeaky wheel. And that's why I'm on the phone now, is to let people know from the very beginning you have to manage your care without trying to beat up everything in the system. You just have to manage your own care, your own case.
Yeah, and it sounds like you were a guinea pig. Almost for some of these, but I mean, you put your trust in doctors, and that's what we do, and we assume that they know what they're doing, and many times that's the wrong treatment. But as soon as you find out, like you did, you change doctors, so that's a good thing, and you're still with us today. So,
and not only did they not diagnose something, and this is a very important. This is important why you should have a QME or an AME. Obviously, I was being treated for the lung condition, trying to find out what's going on. They're trying to rate your percentage. You're trying to get the best treatment you can get and try to survive. But they're in the meantime trying to figure out the dollar signs and what's your percentage and all this other stuff. As I was sitting in there with the QME, he goes, they didn't ask me to look at this, but I'm telling you that because of the treatments, because of what you're doing, you now have, I believe you have, hypertension, the cardiovascular disease. He said, but I'm not asked to be treated for that, but I would probably say something to your attorney. So I went back to talk to my attorney. He says, absolutely, we're going back. Sure enough, because of the medications, what had happened, but nobody will ever say that. Nobody will ever commit themselves to that kind of stuff. They just say, oh yeah, now you have cardiovascular disease. But that would have never happened if I would have been going to a regular physician and I hadn't gotten a lawyer would have pulled out a QME or an AME for me to go in there and be diagnosed correctly or non-biased. That would have never been diagnosed. I would have gone through the system and that would have been it.
Well, now, Chris, you pointed out what I believe is really important, and that is good communication with your doctors. It's good that you were taking control of the situation.
You guys are real. I'm only catching about one word out of I don't know how many.
Oh, maybe.
Are you there?
Yeah.
Are you hearing me?
Is that better?
I just heard that, yeah.
Okay. What I'm saying is that you did a good job of at least finding out for yourself some of what was going on. You pushed the doctors to do the right thing for you. You communicated with your attorney, and you got to some other doctors. The important thing that I'd like people to understand is that what we call these compensable consequence injuries are not going to be readily accepted by the insurance carrier. So if, in fact, you're having some other problems, you need to first of all be sure you're telling your doctor about the problems you're experiencing and asking whether this could be a complication from your injury. And then hopefully the doctor will agree with you and order some tests. Now, that's not the end of it, because as we were talking about the utilization review process, a lot of times they'll just automatically deny that treatment because they'll say it's not part of your claim. That's why it's important for your attorney to get you to an agreed medical examiner or a qualified medical examiner, because they will be able to determine, first off, whether or not you need other studies done, and then to develop the history and appropriate diagnosis for any other problems that could be part of the claim that wouldn't be found by the underlying primary treating physician. So it's really important. You can get the testing that would not be authorized by utilization review. You can have it done through the AME or the QME process, and that way when the doctor says, yes, this is a connection, now they'll be on the hook for it, and you get that treatment. But it's important to do that sooner rather than later, if at all possible.
Yeah. Okay, we got to take a break right here, Chris, and thanks a million for your call. And
Sure.
Call us anytime. Okay.
All righty, thank you.
Bye-bye.
Is it that time? Your car needs a smog check? Well, check out Quick Smog Check in Montclair. They guarantee your vehicle will pass, or you pay not a thing. That's right. If it doesn't pass the test, what the heck? You don't have to pay. So what's the reason why you're not calling them? The number 909-626-5436. You can also drive right down there now. 5438 Holt Boulevard in Montclair. They're open 9 to 5, 6 days a week, Monday through Saturday. Do it now. No wait smog checks at Quick Smog Check in Montclair. 909-626-5436.
Kcaa.
Use the power of the sun and save money on your utility bills. Solar power has saved many residents as much as 75% on their utility bills. But finding a good contractor can be very difficult. Look no further. Euclid Energy Performance Contractors is a family-based business in Upland. They not only do solar panels, they also do windows, insulation, heating and air conditioning, and also custom remodeling. Remember this number, 909-285-4406 for a free energy evaluation. 909-285-4406. Or check out their website at www.eepcontractors.com. Euclid Energy Contractors guarantee all their work and products. eepcontractors.com.
Thank you, Inland Empire, for listening to KCAA Radio.
Thanks for waiting. Lloyd and Greg are back.
Yeah, we're back with Steve.
Yeah.
Hi, Z, an attorney for workman's comp, and I have a good question for you. I think it's a good one. It may be a bad one. You never know.
Well, let's hope we get a good answer.
Why they had something in the paper not too long ago about all these firemen and policemen going out on workman's comp, job-related injuries, saying stress and all these other things, and almost all of them seem to be draining some of the retirement, from the city. And of course, San Bernardino filed for bankruptcy, and there's a lot of others that are standing by just by the a very small margin, and they could go into bankruptcy too because of all these things. I know that these are hazardous occupations and they are very stressful, but is there anything? It's very difficult to prove these things.
Well, let me just say first off that the police and fire have a very strong lobby in the state of California, and they have incorporated some laws into the workers' compensation system which are very advantageous to the police and fire. For example, there are 5 major areas of medical conditions which are conclusively presumed to be work-related if a person's been in the fire police for 5 years. So if you have a heart condition, for example, if you've been in the police or fire for 5 years, it's 100% due to work, whether it was or wasn't. You might have a family history of it. You might have many other causes for it, but because of the law that's in place, lawyers can't argue against it. It's 100% work-related. Now, what does that do for police or fire when it comes time to retirement? Their retirement programs are geared toward pretty much early retirement at pretty good wages.
Yes, they
and if they can determine that their retirement is due partially to a disability, then 50% of their retirement earnings will be tax-free. So they're encouraged by the monetary system to
do that.
create a work injury as the cause of their early retirement, because it just puts more money in their pocket through non-taxation of that income.
Well, I mean, air traffic controllers could say the same thing, but of course you don't handle federal compensation.
Every traffic controllers probably could. There's actually many occupations that could, but unfortunately they don't all have the lobby that the police and fire have in the state of California, and we do appreciate the work that the police and fire do for us. We're not trying to say anything disparaging to them, but the system is just created to increase litigation to enhance their retirement benefits, and that's just the way it is.
The problem comes about here, whereas they could retire at age 55 if they started at 18 and whatever, and they got a good retirement system, and then they go back into another occupation. I've known several to be, private investigators and are making some good money there as a private investigator. I think that, and that didn't seem to prevent them from doing another job. Shouldn't this be key to them not being able to do another job? See, this is the thing that bothers me.
Well, now we're talking about what makes us madder than hell, which has nothing to do with the workers' comp system. It has to do with the world we live in and the fact that we've created these scenarios where people get tremendous retirement benefits through the government programs, and they're not really disabled enough to keep them from doing jobs. And that's subject for probably another forum, but it does make me madder than hell, and I want to talk about it.
Yeah, but just like me, I'm a federal employee. I retired, and a lot of people resent that fact that I get a good retirement, but I also paid into the Social Security system. But I can't get all that's owed to me in the Social Security system because that's double dipping, and they stopped that a long time ago. So I only get 50% or less than that on my Social Security.
Well, yeah, there's a lot of.
They prevented me from doing the same thing these guys.
Yeah, that's right. You paid into it. I mean, you earned it.
That's true.
Well, there's a lot of rules that we have for integrating benefits between public programs and Social Security programs, and maybe some of those that didn't ever participate at all that have come here by whatever means and seem to find their way into our system. And they're draining the resources from those that are entitled to it.
That's what I'm mad as hell about.
But that's really not the workers' compensation issue that I'm here to talk about. I'll be glad to talk about that, but I think in terms of the workers' compensation issues that we're here to talk about today, or that I can give some input to, I think it's just really important that people understand their rights, read their information. If they get hurt, they tell their employer, they report the claim and get the thing documented, and that they communicate with their doctors and with their employers what their problems are, so that they can get at least an attempt to get the process going the way it should.
Sure.
Yeah, my doctor, one of my doctors, I talked to him and told him I was doing the show, and he said he called workers' comp an ongoing criminal enterprise, is how he referred to it. He's dumped several deals because he's in pain management and he deals with narcotics, and some of these utilization reviews have actually taken these narcotics away from people that are addicted to it because of the need for it, and actually throwing them into dire life-threatening situations. And so he is really caustic on this area, where these utilization review doctors have never, he calls it making diagnosis without treatment. They don't treat these people. They've never seen this person, and yet they're making diagnosis on this person's whether he should be medicated or not. And it's really got him irritated with the system, and he takes it one step further. He said, if I appeal a case and I win it, they can appeal back in 30 days. 30 days. He said, if you lose your appeal, I can't appeal for another year. He said he has to sit on it for a year, where the other people get 30 days.
Yeah, that's one of the things that is a problem that a lot of people are angry about with their medical treatment. And it has to do with the utilization review process, and what he calls the appeal is a doctor can appeal a utilization review determination that non-certifies his recommendation,
right?
And he has to do it through what's called the IMR, the Independent Medical Review Process, and it's a very complicated process, filling out a lot of forms, writing reports, giving information, and then if the IMR upholds the utilization review, he's correct. Nothing can be done for one more year, and that's by the law. And so he may feel like the treatment he's prescribing is the appropriate course, and in fact the injured worker might feel like this is actually helping them, but the system precludes that, and that can be a problem not only for the doctor and for the injured worker, but for the insurance carrier as well, because if a person's not getting better, they're going to stay on disability longer.
Sure.
Or they might even commit suicide. Now, I'd hate to have that on my conscience.
Yeah, well, he had a case almost committing suicide, where he had a team stop the guy. The guy was cut cold turkey from narcotics, and instead of going and finding an alternate source to come down or whatever, he went to a hotel in Los Angeles, and a high hotel in Los Angeles with suicidal intent. They were able to get to him, and he didn't kill himself. But, he explained...
But you never know.
Well, that's one of the problems
Sure could have been.
when you talk about utilization review and medication is what if a person is taking a medication and then gets non-certified? The insurance adjuster has to be careful and not just immediately cutting that medication off. And there's case law to support that there's certain medications there has to be a weaning process and a rehabilitation process.
And that's where that 8-minute psychiatric treatment comes in, right?
Sure. Yeah, I'm sure there's some type of law. There has to be some type of law, but I don't know why they slipped under it.
Would you want to do a commercial? Or do you need any business?
I'm not here to advertise, but I am here to try and help people on both sides of the system. We want the system to be fair.
Yeah.
We want it to be appropriate. We want people who are legitimately injured to receive the benefits they're entitled to and to get help and hopefully get back to work. We want employers to help their people get back to work. We want employers to accommodate people when they have a residual disability and allow them to get back to work, because our society depends on people all contributing and working.
Yeah.
And so we need people back in the workforce, and that's what the goal of the system should be. And if we don't have too many people making bogus claims or too many insurance adjusters making bogus denials, maybe the system could work better.
Well, we hope so.
I think better doctors, too. I think there's a lot of flaky doctors in here just because of the money, and I'm sorry to say.
Well, there are doctors, I will say this, and a lot of doctors have told me this. They get calls from an insurance adjuster saying, you got to put this person back to work. That insurance adjuster has no business telling a doctor that. That's a medical decision.
Yeah. Well, thanks for coming on. We appreciate all the information you've given our listeners, and
maybe
good
we can
luck.
have you on again.
Great to be with you. I enjoyed the chance to be with both of you today. Thank you.
Maybe we can have you back.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
This is 1050 AM KCAA Loma Linda and 106.5 FM Yucaipa.
Your NBC Sports Radio update starts now.
Can't stop Zeke. I am Keith Irizarry. Number 3 Ohio State ran by Illinois largely because of Ezekiel Elliott.
2nd and goal. Barrett gets quickly in a shotgun with Elliott on his right-hand side. Snap to Barrett. Hands it to Elliott, and he knifes his way in for the touchdown. Ezekiel Elliott, who went over right guard on a 1-yard run. It is his 15th rushing touchdown of the season, and Ohio State owns a 20-3 lead over Illinois.
That's Paul